Hello, welcome back to the channel. Nigel here with you, Nigel's Modelling Bench, and this is now what we could call part 6 of the Lancia Stratos from Italeri. This is the Lancia Stratos Group 4 from Monte Carlo Rally 1977, which is, today is Sunday, it's the last day of the Monte Carlo Rally 2025, how things have changed. So, as you all know from my last video, Italeri sent me a new body and it is really nice compared to the other one. I did notice after making that video there is a slight amount of waveriness on here which I'm going to have to deal with. I don't know if you can see it on the camera. I don't think you'll be able to make it out, but I just lightly went over it with a 400 grit stick and you can see there are some shiny areas, so it's not perfectly flat across there, so there is some movement there, but this area here is fine, which gets covered up by the light pod anyway if you use the light pod. But yeah, something worth looking at there. But that should be easy enough to sort out. I may even go back to the old front end. We shall see. But what I have done is gone around, as you can see, I put the black super glue. I've used that Ammo Meg stuff. This one here, I don't like it. I don't like it as a glue. I don't like it as a filler, but I'm certainly not going to throw it away. So I just use it on. I'll just use it on here as a filler. You can see on here the trouble with it is so bloody thick. When you pull away, you get all the stringiness and static and everything. So, but I've used it anyway to cover up those ejector pin marks. So there we go. So I started looking at the rest of the body. There's a couple of holes to be drilled in here. They're marked out on the inside for the rear spoiler to go into. Eves did comment that the rear spoiler covers up the boot lid. It doesn't. It just goes on the back. It doesn't cover any of this boot lid area at all. It actually comes up to this edge. So that's going to get glued onto that rear end. These are going to get glued onto the body. Remember we talked before about gluing these on now rather than putting them on as they say in the instructions so that we can get the whole thing painted. This rear spoiler is also going to be built up and fitted before it's painted because it's all body coloured. So that's good. We've also got to get the body fitted up to the monocoque and then get the arches on and blended in and everything. So lots of work. So anyway, what I'm going to do here is tape this together. Okay, so I'm just going to use some 10mm Tamiya tape. And there is some very slight location. It's not very easy to put together. There's a tiny little tab on each end you can see on there. It's a tiny little tab. It's minuscule. So yeah, it takes a bit of work to get it together. But there we go. I think you saw the engine in one of my videos. I can't remember which video it was now. Maybe the video hasn't even gone out yet. But yeah, the engine, you know, it's lovely. In fact, I'll show you now. I think I showed you the engine in the Bodywork video, didn't I? Oh, come on, this is ridiculous. I wish there was a better location for this. It's blowing a bloody gale outside as well, which I don't like. I don't like the wind. A little bit of tape off of there. All I want to do is just get this so it's kind of held together in approximately the right place. So I could just get a dab of glue on there just to hold it in place. So you can see these ends are going to have to be moved around. That centre needs pulling down a bit. So what I'm going to have to do here is take a gamble because I don't like applying cement after I've applied tape because the cement can capillary under the tape and ruin your finish. But having said that, on this it's going to be an easy case to repair it. So yeah, I'm going to hope you, if you were thinking about getting one of these and I put you off with my review, I hope you've now changed your mind, because you can buy one in the knowledge that if you do have a problem with the body, then Italeri will sort you out. One thing I will say, I think the hobby company are the UK importers and I've heard nothing from them. So apparently somebody did say they had a reply from the hobby company and they wanted to see photographs. But of course the distortion in the bodywork, especially on the roof, is very, very difficult to photograph to show the extent of the distortion. But anyway, so that's gone together there roughly. What I'm going to do is just get some extra thin in there, just a drop. I just want to sort of get it tacked together, and then I can remove the tape and give it some proper glue in and let it get sorted. Just put a drop in that corner. That's going to probably go under the tape. I'll put a drop in that corner as well. Okay, so that's the rear spoiler assembled. Right, I'm going to put a drop in there. And we'll also put a drop in there, and then that can all be, let that go off, get the tape off, get it all nicely firmly glued up, perhaps from the inside or whatever, and then we can do some blending, because that's all. This is all like one piece of fiberglass moulding. This is, so we've got to clean up all these seams and just get it, and then that is actually then going to fit onto the rear end. I just noticed I've got a bit of a sprue gate still on there as well, so it has to be removed. There's my 400 grit. I don't like working with white plastic, but it is what it is. There we go. So there we are. So that can go onto there like that, and that will sit on the back end. So now you can see we have Lancia Stratos. Here we have some raised areas around those holes. Okay, so that's that. So let's look at what we're going to do next. Okay, so here we are now pushing forward. This is about 2 days later now, I think. I'm really losing the will to live here, guys, I got to be honest, because I've been working on this and dealing with ejector pin marks, and then working on this project for Wednesday. Today is Monday the 27th, and as you know, this World War I Wednesday, this swap with Camel, that is also absolutely plastered in ejection pin marks. So, and I'd done them, and then when I sanded them back I realised they needed doing again because they were shallow. You may not think to be fussed to do this a bit too much, but the trouble is with the wood grain effect on there, any marks or anything will stick out like a sore thumb, especially if they're evenly spaced circles and stuff. If there's one or two, it won't matter, it'll look like part of the wood effect, but if you've got them all evenly spaced, it'll look terrible. So what have I done here? Right, I have, with my 400 grit stick, I've come over and just gone over. You can see the little areas here where I've put some super glue, where there was a tiny bit of shrinkage. This edge here was quite bad. That was quite sort of wavy, you know, almost like this, like the back of your fingers. So I had to sand that out, and I fitted the front. And the way I did that, I did start filming it, but guys, it's more boring than watching paint dry. Just basically, like I did with this spoiler, tape it together and then a couple of drops of glue, let it dry, take the tape off and then go back in, and then I've put some super glue from behind, as you can see, just to sort of back it up, because the only location it's got is this area here. There's a little tab that sits inside. Make sure when you glue it on, pull it out flush to the wing. They're supposed to have a step there. There's supposed to be a step. That's part of the design. So that's ready to go. Then we've got these internal liners. They're protectors for the headlamps, and they also have the hinges on that are gonna mount. And these things, I put them together, got them nice and square. Again, ejector pin marks in here. sanded all them out, or filled them and sanded them out. Nasty seam on there to deal with. You may not be too fussed about it, but as you know, I like to get things nice. I like to get rid of seams where I can. And then these literally pop in and they fit in beautifully. Look at that. They really do fit beautifully. So very impressed with that. So that's what the front end's going to hinge on. And then the other side is obviously going to go in like that, as you can see there. So there you are. So there's your sort of boxed in headlamp units, if you like. Whereas on this one, the headlamps are going to be up with the light pod fitted. So we'll take them out of there. The light pod I've glued together. You have to drill a couple of holes in the bonnet to fit this. And there we go. As you can see, it fits lovely. Fits very nice indeed. I just need to open those holes up a touch. But you can see it fits very nice on there. I have actually sanded this where it had some undulation. I've just sanded it flat and just kept the stick. Just used the stick, just kept it flat, kept sanding lightly. You can see there was an undercut there. Remember I said I could feel it, and you can see the glue in there now. So we'll see what it looks like with the coat of primer on it, and then we get some gloss on it, see how it looks then. So that's our front end all done. Once they're glued in, they're ready to go. Job done. Like I said, I'm losing my bloody will to live because I thought, right, I've got the back end done. That's all been left to dry, and I've blended it out, and you can see I've put super glue inside and out, and then sanded it out so we've got a nice seam-free joint. And I'll just leave it. I know it's still not perfect. I'll leave it for another 24 hours and then sand it. Otherwise, you run the risk of the super glue shrinking back and leaving you a seam. And then when it came to fitting the spoiler, those two holes there, I mean, you can put them in there if you want to, but what I found is with those holes, the spoiler sat too high. I wanted to bring it down more, so get it to line up better on the lights. And also with it up higher, we had exaggerated. There was a gap here, so I've cut the pins off to allow it to go lower down. So there, it fits like that. Now you will see there's black super glue around here, actually on the spoiler. What I had to do, because there was a slight gap, I've put some 10 thou plastic card in here just to fill out the gap. Now I need to do some research because I'm not sure if this spoiler was actually moulded onto this as part of the moulding, or if it was actually bolted on as a separate piece. I'm not sure, I need to check, but we'll have a look. I haven't glued that edge there because I'm thinking if it needs to line up with the spoiler then it can, but it's absolutely an opening boot lid, so it wouldn't have a nice seam there anyway. So so that's that. Alright, so that's going to fit in like that, and I'll get those, when that glue's dry, I'll get that sanded out. All I've done is glued 10 thou strip to the edge, and then put black super glue. I trimmed it off and then put black super glue around just in case there's any seam there. And obviously, like I say, let your super glue dry for about 24 hours before you start sanding it all back and stuff, or you'll find you end up with shrink marks. So there we go. So like I said, losing the will to live. So I'll get on with this back end. There's a bulkhead that goes in there, which is here, and it fits absolutely beautifully. So that's going to go out. There's a little recess in there. I don't know if you can see, there's a little recess in there just in front of that ejector pin mark. And there's a tab on here. There's ejector pin marks coming through, so make sure you sand them out because they look awful. And then that's going to go on like that. And as you can see, that fits in there absolutely gorgeous. If you want to put some filler or something in there, you can. But you'll notice that here you can see up inside, so we'll get that all painted black before we do anything, because when that's up like that on the back of the car, you'll be able to see down there. We don't want to see the tacky white plastic, do we? We'll just spray it black. I would put some plastic card in there and stuff, but I think I'll just spray it black. And then our hinges are going to mount on there, so we won't fit the hinges yet. What we'll do is we'll fit the hinges to the back of the space frame, let the glue tack off, fit the hinges here, let the glue tack off, and then fit it on, and then if we need to pull it about, we can. So that'll be a bit of fun, but we've got to get the centre section on first. So yeah, I thought I'd do this, and then we've got these wheel arches to go in, and these fit beautifully in, which one's this? Be careful, it's got super glue in the ejector pin mark. That's that one there. So that's going to go into there like that. Okay, and then we'll have a seam to fill there. I've done some research and it does look like they had this sort of inner wheel arch, but what I'm going to do is cut this outer arch away once we got the big arch, but I know where it's going to go, because I don't think it had this here. I don't think it had that, so I think it was all just open. But it certainly had, there's a fender liner in there to stop the mud and everything going all over the back of the fuel tanks and all down the side. But the engine got absolutely plastered by the look of it. So yeah, that was amazing. So so there we go. So yeah, like I say, losing the will to live, thought I'd get on with this, and then found 1, 2, 3, 4 ejector pin marks in each, and they're pretty deep as well. So that's the third lot of super glue they've had. So I'll leave those now for 24 hours to shrink back before I sand them down. It's getting a bit boring, this, isn't it? So yeah, I'm going to wait for that to dry, and then I can sand that back, and then I can look at getting these side skirts on. But I think what I'd like to do is, what I don't want to do, these side skirts, I'll get them out of the bag here. I'll just show you what's going on with them. It's a bit awkward. I'm not sure if I showed you this in another video. Still only got one on the door. You've got this tab on here that's going to go into there's a slot in there, you can see. And when that goes in there, it fits in there lovely. Okay, there you go, goes in there lovely. Has a bit of play, so you've got some adjustment. I tend to line the door edge up because it's going to be easier to work with this edge. If you've got a plastic car to do some sanding, it's easier to work on this back edge than on this front edge where the door is. The other thing is the wheel arch is going to cover that anyway. You might be cutting this bit out, so we shall see. But anyway, when it goes on, you've got this lump here. Let me grab a pointy stick. You can see there's this lump here, and I think that's pushing the body out too far. You can see that when it goes together, that it's got that sort of step there that continues on from the nose, but it seems to be a little bit too far out. So I think it's going to be a lot easier. If you haven't seen all this, go back and have a look through the other videos. I've covered everything I've done. I haven't done hardly anything off camera. But when this goes on here, we can clamp that on, and what we'll do is we'll fit this with this all clamped in place. Because as you can see, the front end has got a little peg there, which goes into that little slot in there in the chassis. In the we'll call it the chassis, but it's actually all one really. And then you can see that all lines up lovely. But we're going to have to deal with this edge along the bottom, because when the doors are open you're going to see it. And the other thing is, here you can see there's a gap, and what they've done, I think it's a design mistake to be honest, although they probably wouldn't admit it. What they've done here, they haven't carried this, they haven't put a flange or anything on here, so when you actually put it together, you've got a butt joint corner to corner. So as you can see, it's got a gap in there, so we'll have to fill that in with something. What I'll probably do is put some plastic card on here and sand it back, but what I don't want to do is affect the fit here, you can see. So what we may have to do is cut that tab down. We'll put some narrow plastic strip down that edge and then cut this tab down here. Look at all the static with all the puppy hair stuck to it. We'll cut this tab down here, so narrow it down. So it's still got, because it's a lovely land for the body sits up against there beautifully. But I'm thinking, I'm just thinking with that land there, does that fill in the gap? I don't know how I can securely hold this body on here. There we go. It's hard to tell because it's black, you can't see if there's a gap or just black plastic. I think there's definitely going to be a gap there, but I've got a feeling that nub in there needs to come away a bit. So there we go, and obviously we need to get it all lined up with the doors as well. We've got you can see that step continues along the door. So the door fits in there. It's going to fit really nice, and the step lines up beautifully. So bit of careful work, bit of taping and clamping and alignment before any glue gets used, and we should be good to go. What I would like to do is be able to glue this together and then build it as the real car was built. But obviously I don't have the room to get in there and get pedals in and stuff and windscreen and everything. But it would be nice to be able to get all this done. As I've said in previous videos, what they tell you to do in the instructions is fit this in with your windscreen and everything, which means you'd have to have painted the body and then fit these. Well, you can imagine trying to fit that, you know, and then you're going to fit the wheel arches after you've painted the body, and the wheel arches need to be blended in. So, nah. That's not my way of doing things. That's not the way. That's not the way I roll. But, there we go. That's going to go in there like that. So you can see it's all a lovely fit. All very nice indeed. So there we are. Just wonder if they've changed their plastic. It's a different colour. It's a completely different finish as well. Maybe they've changed the plastic. I don't know. I had an email today from Italeri, and it said, "Thank you for your kind words. We try to make the best kits possible," that sort of thing. So, I don't know if that means, and obviously my Italian is non-existent. I can ask for a packet of cigarettes. How una de pacchetto di sigarette, por favore. That's about it. Yeah. So maybe it's just a breakdown in language. I don't know. But they may be trying to say that they are making improvements and trying to improve the moulding process or whatever. I don't know. But I did send them some kind words and said thank you very much. The body you've sent me is wonderful. Now we need to get together. You need to get your heads together and get everything this good. And then more people will buy your models. So there we go. I've also built up the radiator, which is, again, because of this 1980s moulding, to put it bluntly, where you've got the two halves going together, instead of it coming up like this together, it's like that. You know, like real old kits were with a radius edge, so you've got a hell of a gap there to fill. And on the top, it would be on the bloody top, wouldn't it? We've got this recessed detail. So rather than do that and try and get in there and sand it, I'll just put some plastic card in there or something. I may even use this drop of filler in there, we shall see. But yeah, pain. You can see on there how soft the moulding is and how big that seam in there is to fill. So anyway, it is what it is. But it's a lot nicer than the Daisha kit, I can assure you of that. So I'm just going to sit around and wait and maybe do some more tomorrow. I'm not sure how long this video's been. If it's long enough, then I'll put it out. If not, then I'll wait till tomorrow and get some more work done, get this rear bulkhead glued in or something. Okay, so I'll see you in a minute. Alright, so it's Wednesday now. I think the last bit of this I filmed was Monday, wasn't it? So, yeah, finally got these ejector pin marks out of here. That one in the corner is very awkward because it's on a radius. But they're all filled and sanded now, so they're all done. All I've done for the last 3 days is bloody ejector pin marks. I assembled the fuel tanks. They have a seam round here, which I've dealt with super glue. The VMS black thin again. I need to get in there and clean that up a bit more. There were also there was a sink mark in here, so I dealt with that, and there was a really deep sink mark in there, and that's had its third application now of super glue. So get that dealt with as well. I'm not even sure if they're going to be visible, but again we had the seam all around there. The seam all around the sides was quite nice, but on this top area here we had the same problems we have with the radiator, where the plastic, instead of meeting like this, you know, with a nice sharp corner, it sort of meets like that. We've dealt with the radiator, done all those seams around there and in the top and everything. I ended up using Mr. Surfacer and then just scraping it out. But we'll let that dry back for a few days before we need it, and then give it a spray, see what it looks like. So yeah, I think I already mentioned, didn't I? This goes in here, fits beautifully, but we are going to need to paint in there black first, otherwise we're just going to see white plastic cut through there. Now, I've had a couple of genuine Stratos owners contact me. I won't give any names or anything, because I don't think it's fair to do so, because, you know, car theft is a big issue these days, especially nice stuff. So yeah, basically they've contacted me, and one One of the guys is currently not around at the moment, so unable to go and see his car. I've been invited to go and see the other car, but it's a long way away. So sort of having a couple of email conversations, and I've asked him some questions. It would appear, we were talking about these rear arches, weren't we, in our previous video? And I was saying that I think basically that what they would have done is moulded the Group 4 rear body in one. But apparently that's not correct. These arches were actually added on, but then they were blended and filled. And if you remember, I spoke before, they were either kind of, you know, like these are the standard wheel arches for the Stratos version, the road going car. And then I did mention that the Group 4 arches either seem to be sort of extensions that just sort of extend out like this, you know, like a 45-degree angle, or they tended to sort of be full blown and blended into the body, which is what these are trying to depict. But if we actually glue these on, the way they've got them designed is we will have the original arch still there, and you'll have this great big lump here. Now, I'm not sure if that's how it was. I've asked the question because the owner of one of the cars has got this style of body, and he's told me that on his they're actually riveted on and then blended through. So, and his is a genuine Group 4 car. So basically, we've got to wait and see. I've got to wait and see what he says. But looking at this, it's all a bit strange because, as you can see, if I line with this step here in the bodywork, we've got a step in the arch there. That step determines where the back end goes, so that's that sat there. And then if we blend it in to that wheel arch, okay, the top edge meets the edge of the bodywork there, but the bottom edge, as you can see, I can't hold it in place, the bottom edge is actually sticking out. So the top's flush there, but the bottom is sticking out. Now, I don't know if that's the way it's supposed to be or if it's a cock-up, but we shall see. I really don't like this line here. If you blend this in, you're going to lose the latch position. So I think this may need some remodeling. I think we may need to be cutting this out and bringing it down, because I need to do some research and look at some photographs. But to me, that just doesn't look right. It looks like it's too high up. But hopefully the gentleman who's got the real car can send me some photographs, you know, from the angles and also from the inside. Now, these wheel arch liners, I believe these are in there. I think I mentioned that before, didn't I? Because I found a photograph looking at the rear brakes, and it's basically on this side looking forward, looking at the rear brakes with the actual bodywork down, and it's looking forward, and you can see this liner here sort of in front of the fuel tank, if that's how it goes. And so that, I think, is correct. But when this goes in here, as you can see, if I put this in place like so, and then I put this in here like that, how it's supposed to go, then you can see we're going to have a great big gap where that wheel arch liner, that wheel arch extension goes. So I don't really know what to do there. But what I am going to do is go on and glue these on here. Okay, what am I doing? That's going on there. I'm going to go on and cement these on here, and then I can deal with that seam there. I know a lot of you are probably thinking, why are you messing around with all these bloody seams, you know, the ejector pin marks? It's inside the wheel arch. It's going to be covered in mud. It won't be covered in mud because I'm not weathering it. But also, when the bodywork is lifted, it will all be quite visible. So I would rather have no ejecting pin marks and seams and that, just, you know, be able to look at it nicely. It's a case of time, yes, but with this model I have probably spent 10 times longer doing ejector pin marks, sink marks, ejector palm marks coming through the other side, all that sort of stuff. It's probably a hell of a lot of time spent doing that, you know, over and above what we'd normally do. So we may as well go the whole hog. And I could imagine there will be quite a few of these built that they won't be worrying about that sort of thing, and they won't look as nice as mine, I don't think. We shall see. Not that it matters, because I'll never enter it in a show or anything. But, you never know, maybe I will one day. I've never entered a model in a show, probably never will. I'm not good enough. So there we go. Okay, so that's them cemented in. Just going to put a bit more in there for luck, just to make sure we've got a nice strong joint. Because if it turns out that those arches are in fact cut out, you can see that when you put this in, you can see that when you fit this in here, you've got all this arch here, and I think that should all be cut away. I don't think they would have left that arch there, because when they put the wider wheels on, that would just keep hitting the tyre. So they would also restrict their suspension movement. So I think what we're going to be doing is cutting that out and blending it into here, and then sticking the arch on the outside and getting rid of all this meat in here and just having the outer edge of the arch just with, with a sort of a bit of a lip round it. We shall see. So there we go, guys. So that's it for this part for now. I'll get some more work done. That's going to have to be just sprung up a bit in there. But yeah. So I will see you all soon. And we're back. And boy oh boy have we got our work cut out here. So you saw me in the last little segment. I assembled these arches into this rear panel. I've now gone in with the black super glue and smoothed it all out, so it's all like one piece now. Now when this goes in, basically sits in here like so and fits in there beautifully. We need, as I say, we need to spray down in there black. That's the least of my worries. This panel here, this is coming down. I'm not sure if that should be attached or if it should be separated at the join line here, and this should be glued to the back of the fuel tanks or whatever. But we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. I can confirm the very kind gentleman up north has sent me about 100 photographs of his car. Very, very detailed photographs, and yeah, I want to thank him very, very much. And it would appear, okay, so he tells me that every, and I 100% believe him, other than the actual works cars, the Group 4s were actually modified standard bodied cars. Okay, so basically these arches are add-ons, and he's actually sent me the parts diagrams as well. And this they used to rivet this whole side onto the rear clam. Okay, you will see I've mentioned this before, probably even in this video, there are some Group 4 cars that just have an extension here, okay, that comes from there, and it's just like a sort of, just like a flared wheel arch, okay, whereas these are these sort of full-blown arches, much like you get on a Mark 1 Escort RS or whatever, the rally cars. And it's basically a riveted on fiberglass panel which is blended and filled and everything from the inside, and I've got photographs now to prove it. So as I said in my previous segment, which was 3-4 days ago now, this area in here needs to be cut away. So basically this area here, this standard wheel arch, is going to be cut away, and it looks like the way Italeri have designed this is that you actually glue this on here, okay, and you glue it there, and they've got exactly the same radius there. So you basically put glue around there and glue around there, sorry, glue there and glue there, and glue that arch on. Now what I'm going to do, I've got these taped in position, I'm going to glue them around here. I'm not going to glue them here because I'm going to cut all this out, because that shouldn't be there. And then basically what they did, this inner sort of arch kind of thing, this was basically blended into this arch here. So you can see we're going to have to put a little fillet in there. So I'm not going to fix this yet. What I'm going to do is fix these rear arches and glue them on there, have them nice and solid, and then cut away the inside. Now, I can hear you all like, oh no, you are joking me, man. You don't have to do this, all right? You don't have to do it unless you want accuracy. Now, I don't want to see my rear clamshell lifted up and have this stupid rubbish here, because that's not correct. This would not be there. This would all be cut away, because otherwise when the suspension goes into full bump, the tyres would be rubbing these arches. That's why they put wide arches on, to cover the tyres, and also, you know, you need full bump. So basically this is all going to be cut away. Now, I've got photographs and I may share some of them with you. We'll see going forward. So that's that. The other thing that's going to get you guys really going is this is incorrect. You've got this line going around here. Okay, that needs to be radiused in. So we're going to have to fill and blend and sand and everything to get that all nicely blended in. Now, really what we should do is cut into this wheel arch a bit, because it's going to end up way too high up. Or just remake that position there for the clamp. But there we go. That's what we've got, and that's what we've got to do. So I'm going to glue these arches on and then call this video done. The other thing you'll notice when you look at this, you can see that the actual line of the arch comes down here, and you can see that the top is flush with the edge of the rear clam, but the actual lower edge is sticking out. Yeah, and when you actually put the forward part of the arch on here, you can see it's all going to meet up nicely, but it all needs to be chopped about. So we're going to have to, what I was going to do was chop part of this arch off and then glue it onto there, but what I'll do is I'll actually chop that off and I'll build this up, okay? Because basically they have a little flange around there with a little guide pin that actually, so that when they shut it down, it locates and it all comes together, and that's what I'm going to do on mine. But yeah, this is one hell of a lot of work, guys. Why on earth Italeri didn't mould this as one piece like Dyusha did, I will never know. Because, you know, if you're an average modeler, you know, a beginner wouldn't pick this kit up. But if you're an average modeler that doesn't, you know, get into bodywork and filling and blending and everything, you're basically going to build a model that's incorrect, because there's no way this wheel arch should have that sharp edge. What they should have done is given us the other option of the extended wheel arch, would have just glued on, and that would be it. A bit of Mr. Surface or whatever, sand it out, and that's it. Because basically the other type of wheel arch is like an extension of this. It's probably higher up, but this is the bulbous arch, which is all blended in. As I say, this was actually purchased from Lancia as a complete fiberglass panel, and it riveted on all the way around there. So it was riveted, fiberglass, blended and everything. So what I'm going to do is glue this wheel arch on. Now we can see we've got it lined up with the inner arch here. Okay, so we need to get it, we need to make sure it's in perfect position. Okay, not worry too much about this down here. But what we are going to do is get another piece of tape in there and pull that in a bit tighter. The tape I've used so far is second hand, so it's obviously not as tacky as the new stuff. But there we go. So that's pulled in nice and tight there. And then what we want is a nice even joint. We've got a nice even joint around here. So we're going to put that tape around there, pull that in like that. Okay, so we've got it nice and flush around there. That's what we want. That's still not right. It's still not pulled in tight enough. So let's get under here. Let's get this tape up. Oh dear, that's not supposed to happen, is it? Pull it in nice and tight. There we go. So yeah, I'm afraid Italeri have dropped a big one here. They're basically forcing the modeler to do all this blending and everything, because there's no such thing as a Stratos with an edge like that there. They're all blended. So Yeah, well done, Italeri. What they've done, to do a safari car, they've done this and then given us these add-on arches. What they should have done was either given us a complete side to glue on, or moulded the back end as one piece with these big arches on, just like Daiosha did. So yeah, very unfortunate, and another downside to this bloody thing. Anyway, I'm going to get the other side taped on, and then I'll come back and we'll get some glue in done. Alright, so the critical point here, ignore all of this here, okay? This is not lining up well at all. You can see that on the inner arch here, it's lining up lovely on there, alright? And it's the same here. You can see this one is a lot better than that side, so I'm not worried about that. We'll get filler in there or whatever and blend that out. What's critical is that the top edge here meets the front edge of the body there nicely. Okay, so that's critical. So what I'm going to do is just hold that in position, and I'm going to put a drop of quick setting in there. I don't really want to glue this arch to this inner arch here because I want to cut it out afterwards. And we're going to be using a tool for that. We're not going to do it manually. I'll be cutting that with a little Dremel type thing, I think. Alright, so that's that there. So that's tacked in place, and I've got this front edge here, the top edge flush. That's the most important thing, is getting that flush there. Right, so a drop of extra thin quick setting in there, a drop in there, just to make sure that front edge stays put where it is. And we can see that either side we've got pretty much equal step from that little recess, but that recess is going to get disappeared. It's going to get covered in filler, I think. But there we go. So that's that bit done. So I'm going to put another drop of quick setting in there, and another drop in there, just to get it sort of tack welded in place. This is how you would do it if you were fabricating something. Alright, I'd love to have done one of these in real life. If anybody's got a Stratos and they want these arches fitted, give us a shout. I'd love to do it. I've done lots and lots of work with fiberglass mold making and all sorts, and I really enjoy it. Right, so that needs to be pulled in there. So I'm going to use a drop of extra thin quick setting again and get that tacked in place. Quick setting is absolutely awesome for tacking. I don't find it good for general assembly because I don't think it's as strong. Because it dries so fast, it doesn't get the work done and getting it all melded together. Melded is a word it's my own word, I think. It's basically a welding and melting. So okay, so we'll get those. We'll make sure that little step in there is good as well. Yeah, there's no doubt in my mind whatsoever, the real cars, the arches are probably all over the place. But we may as well try and get it as good as we can, haven't we? But yeah, I'm afraid Italeri have dropped a big one here. This is crazy doing this. Absolutely crazy. You know, forcing the modeler into doing a complete filling and blending work, which is really what a bloody professional bodywork guy would be scared of. Okay, so that's that tacked in. Yeah. So now we're going to go around with our extra thin, and we're going to flood it in there and get lots in there because I want it to be properly and solidly welded in. I'm not too worried about marking the plastic because it's all going to be filled and blended anyway. But I really want it to be absolutely solidly welded on. Otherwise, when we start hacking it around, it'll split open. Okay, I've got to cough. Alright, so there they are now, glued on. I give them a little squeeze. We got a bit of oozage going on, so that's good. It means it's got a really good weld. And we can see here, when we pop this onto here, in fact what I might do is just put a bit of tape on here just to, for the first time, just to hold it in place. We're starting to look like a Stratos now, aren't we? Get that taped in there, over the top. And then another bit there. Right. So we can see now we've got that in place there. And then when we put this side skirt on, we'll get that out of the way. We'll get that side skirt in position. I call it side skirt, it's actually part of the bodywork, isn't it? When this comes down, you can see that all meets up. Lovely. And this is exactly why we've built the chassis, is so that we can get all this beautifully mated up, and if we have to add plastic card or sand stuff away or whatever, then we can do. And but yeah, there we go. So you can see there's our big Group 4 arches on there, looking wonderful. And when this rear clam shell, I call it the clam because it's a clam shell, fits on this body beautifully. Look at that. It's absolutely stunning, that fit. Really good. But yeah, we're going to have to do some remodelling all around here, blend in that little step there. The rear wing, by the way, the rear spoiler, I've had confirmed from my friend up north and the photographs he sent me that this actually is not blended in. This is stuck on, so we're going to have to leave a gap around the edge. So I think what we'll have to do there is Mr. Surfacer cotton bud just to leave a line around it. But you can see that now we're starting to really look like a Stratos with that great big rear spoiler and those huge arches. You can see now we're starting to look proper Stratos. I'd like to do a Group 5. I wish Italeri would do a Group 5 version. That would be nice. With a big turbo engine in it. Anyway, there we go. So that's that. And then when we look at this, get this tape off of here. When we look at this, this is going to go in like so. Okay, and basically that is going to, these sides are going to glue in to the side panels, and then we're going to put plastic card in to fill it all out. What I'll probably do is actually put plastic card on top of this and then blend it in and have it going out to meet the wheel arches. And like I said, I need to find out what we're going to do here. It would appear from the photographs I've got that on this section here, when this side piece goes on, it would appear that this area here, this, oh come on, stay on there, this hole here is filled in. That's a flat panel that gives it something to butt up against. So I think we'll do the same on this one. So there we go. That has been part 6. And if my review and the first couple of videos of this kit didn't scare you away, then I think this one probably will. Yeah, that's going to be a nightmare. What I'll probably do is put filler in there and then use something like a Tamiya paint pot and just pull the filler around to put a nice radius in there. Obviously you need a tighter radius around there. We can perhaps use the back of the tweezers or something, but we need to get a consistent radius going around, and then some minimum sanding, otherwise you find you start losing it. But that's going to be left now for at least 48 hours. Let that cement go off before we can start cutting anything around. I'll do all the cutting before I do any filling, because if I do any filling before the cutting, then the filler is likely to crack. In fact, I don't think, I don't think I put cement in here. So I'm just going to put some in there now. As you can see, they're not lining up very well at all. But what we'll do here was we'll get this all blended in, sanded in and everything, all looking lovely. Alright, so there we go guys, that has been part 6. As I say, any of the tools you see me using, any of the sanders and glues and all that, you can get it from Brooks Models. Yes, I do promote. I promote Rob over at Brooks Models because he's a great guy. And don't forget, you can use code NMB10 and get 10% off all of your purchases from £15 to £50 and 20% off on purchases over £50. So there you go. And there we are. Happy with that. Happy how it's going. Happy how it's looking. I could pop back a touch. There we are. You can see while the glue's still soft, we can move it all around a bit and just play with it really. As long as this front edge is lined up, that's the main thing. Okay, here we go. We will just have a quick look actually before we go. Let's just have a quick look at how the tyres look. These big fat rear tyres. Oh yeah, lovely. You can see the radius on there is perfect. So yeah, they're going to look lovely. Right, thank you for watching. I will see you all in another, I don't know, probably a week or 10 days for part 7. But that'll be the bit where we'll start doing some proper cutting out and stuff. I think you'll enjoy that. Right, thank you for watching. Bye for now.